But if you could learn from your mistakes really intelligently, that's one thing. So, for example, a lot of people say, Shkreli, you're not a tech investor. Stay in your lane. You know, you're better as a pharmaceutical investor. That's an interesting observation. Of course, only person that I think knows those results over a really long time is me, and I don't think it's right at all. But um, you have to be really careful when you self-assess because you may actually end up reinforcing a bad habit. And I was talking to my friend Quest. If you guys know who Quest is, if you've been following me for a while, he's like my internet best friend on Discord, and he's this Canadian game player. We have like very little in common. He's super liberal, etc. So, but he plays League of Legends and he's very good at it. And we were talking about like getting better at chess, and Hikaru stops by in these streams sometimes, and I like to think maybe I'm a 2,500 in investing, maybe I'm 2,200. I don't know, but I think I'm not 1,200, and but I am not great at chess. I'm like 1,400 at chess, and I joke with Quest all the time, who's like 2,500. This is Elo system, if you don't know it. The 2,500 at he's like 2,500 at League of Legends. He's not 2,800, but he's very very good. And we talk about what does it take to get better, and I think that there's I think that he nailed it really well. He said, if I watch you play League of Legends, I will literally can point out 200 different heuristics you've got embedded in your brain the wrong way. When you started playing League of Legends, you picked up around 200 bad habits. And each one has to be unwound very carefully, psychologically, innately, like you've addicted yourself to this bad behavior. Chess is the same way. You don't even know what your problems are. So if you don't know what your problems are, then how do you fix it? And you just keep reinforcing these bad habits. So you kind of need a coach. And one of the best ways you can get a coach is by working somewhere. You work at a hedge fund, you work in a mutual fund, you work anywhere. Get a job anywhere at a fund-based company, even if you got to be an assistant. And then you can start learning. But until then, and sometimes you'll listen to your coach, but you won't change anything. I had one of the best chess players in the world coach me. I gained 100 rating points or something, but I didn't gain 800 rating points. And I have tons of bad habits for investing. Some of you probably can see them. Some of you think you see them, but you don't. It doesn't matter. Investing is about you making decisions, not me. You have to make your own decisions. And you have to learn from your mistakes, if you can even identify them. When Quest shows me mistakes in League of Legends that people make, consciously or subconsciously, I'm amazed because I didn't even know that mistake existed. I didn't know what it was. When people who play chess for the first time learn about, minor piece quality or space or initiative or like things that they sometimes think maybe they had a word for, and other times they just didn't even know what it was. No clue. So, it's hard to get better at things, especially things that are game-like, like investing or chess or poker or whatever. But I think it's healthy to pick up one of those hobbies and see how much better you can get at them. And if you start to say, hold on, I need to be better at chess. I cannot, if you say to yourself, just put your, I love to do this, and some people ask, like, how did you become successful starting a drug company or whatever? I took my drug company public at 28. How could you do that? And I would say things like, pretend that somebody has a gun to your head. Pretend that, the world is going to end tomorrow unless you don't do this. So do that with something easier, like chess. Play a little chess and ask yourself, tell yourself the world's going to end unless I reach 1,000 ELO. Oh, you play a couple games of chess, you lose, and now you have 600 ELO. Fine. But the next step is, how do I get better? And you might go Google something or whatever, but you have to sort of like really start to think about, how do I get better at things in general? And what's funny is, we were talking about League of Legends, I said it's the same exact thing in investing. And this other guy says it's the same exact thing in poker, this professional poker player. And somebody else says it's the same exact thing in math. And it turns out it's the same exact thing for every skill. It is self-reflection, and just making sure that you you aren't blind to your blind spots. You have other people who can point them out that you trust, ideally people you work with, that are not, that are sort of incentivized to help you and tell you the truth, and not just pat you on the back. For people who trade by themselves, completely alone, I don't know how they do it. I don't think I could do that. I think that it's just too tempting to get into bad habits. People, you need, unless you're really self-aware, you're going to put yourself into some bad habit you just can't even see. You don't even know it exists. And you're going to grind and grind and grind until you can go from 1400 to 2500 in chess by training. I mean, I think anybody can do it. But it depends on how many years you've created these bad habits. Yeah, it's a bit of a Kaizen concept for sure. That's a really good point too, James. How much time you play versus what is your rank. I think IQ is real. I think that the problem is that no matter how smart you are, we're all still ruled by the same dopamine hits, and we tend to over-index to satisfying our anxiety. So if you're, the human brain always wants to be comfortable. So cognitive dissonance is very painful. So when something doesn't work, it's not my fault. These idiots who are long quantum computing stocks. In this case, that's true. But point being, refusal to sort of accept that you made a mistake, refusal to, acknowledge that has nothing to do with IQ. It's all about here. You don't want to be uncomfortable. Who wants to be uncomfortable? The mental uncomfort of, being wrong is so much easier to deflect it and blame somebody else. So I think this is like 80-90% of investing and trading. The balance sheet stuff, the income statement stuff, the DCF, the experience, the due diligence, the channel checks, the interviewing management, it's all really, really important. People get that wrong all the time. But if you don't have the first part, all the second part won't help you. You'd be a really, really smart investor that doesn't make any money. And that's not worthless, by the way. That's worth something. You can work at a fund still. I might say, Sean, you don't know anything about how to put this trade on, but the research you did was excellent. You have to believe you can do better, that's for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to force yourself into that win. Like one of the favorite things I like to say is that, like, there is some series of decisions you can make. It's like a bit of a maze. Each thing is some like weird decision point. It's that they're binary decisions for argument's sake. And they're just yes and no, do it, don't do it, etc. And this is like 2 to the 30th. But there's some series of decisions you can make right now, like starting today, literally, that turn out in the outcome of your net worth is more than, any number, really, more than $1 billion. But the question is, what are the decisions? We don't know. One of my favorite things to do is kind of work backwards. Well, how do you make $1 billion? Well, most people do that by owning some kind of company. So I have to own a company. So over here, I say start a company. That's my decision point. I'm on my way. But it's murky. Here it's okay, well, I need a company with, I don't know, 100 million in revenue. So over here I start to plan, how do I get 100 million in revenue? And here I say, well, to do that, I first need 50. And it needs to be in a sector where I don't need to be existing in a long time to get to 50 in revenue. And, other companies can get to 50 very quickly. Okay? We start a business that looks like that. Well, to get to 50 in revenue, I need capital. Usually I need about, 10 million in capital, at least. So I have to raise 10 million in capital. And each time I start, connecting the dots, I start to get to my goal. And, so I have to raise that money. To raise the money, I have to have real good connections. I have to network, okay? That's over here. Well, to network, I have to know who the hell is important, don't I? It's not just easy enough to just go out and start talking to people. I have to study who is important, who's worth meeting. Okay, then I have to impress them somehow. So I have to learn a lot of stuff about the thing I'm doing. And then they'll say, wow, Martin really knows a lot about biotech. I should give him a chance. Or you know a lot about quantum computing, and I should give you a chance. Whatever it is. Okay, and you just keep going and going, and I think that, you will have a positive outcome. That's interesting, Zoltan. It's kind of a weird type of reverse engineering. Sort of starting with your goal in mind and working backwards. Yeah, I don't, some of the things, even if you can take one little kernel from them and find it useful, I'm happy for you. I just hope I don't give you bad kernels, because everybody does that too. But one of my friends told me Denzel Washington still takes acting lessons, even though he's one of the best actors in the world. And his theory behind it is that even if I can do one thing better than I did yesterday, pick up one little trick, I'm a better actor than I was yesterday. I want to be the best. I want to be the best in the world. So, there's a lot of there's a guy who does this like what I learned from series. It's like what I learned from Charlie Munger. Where is he? Is it this guy? I'm pretty sure it's this guy. Yeah. He's a Microsoft guy, right? Maybe it's not this guy. You guys know who I'm talking about? The guy covers like legendary investors.